Alrighty, good day. Hi, Isadora. Welcome,
Hi.
welcome. Welcome everyone to Push Talks with your Push Strategist, myself, Ose Sesay. I'm super excited. As you guys always know, I'm usually on just a recorded podcast on Apple, iTunes podcast, so make sure you go find us. But today I have the pleasure of having a guest and having a recorded live session because I really felt like this episode is one that needed to be live and engaging for my audience because it's such a hot topic on, going from a career to a business. And I couldn't be more excited to have Isadora Collins with me. She is somebody that I look up to. I'm so inspired by, and she has her consulting for Mod Consulting. And we have her here today to just share a little bit about us to push us into our purpose. As you guys know, this podcast is all about pushing you into your purpose in business, career, and beyond. And it's nothing like having somebody who has walked the journey like Isadora. The funny thing is, I ran into Isadora after we connected. We had been connected years ago through a mutual friend and loved Isadora dearly. And then, life happens. I moved out of Minnesota and, she went on to explore amazing things as we'll hear about today. And we reconnected as consultants now for a project. So it was such a pleasure when I saw her and I saw she would be part of this because it's been years. But more importantly, it just excited me to see how much growth and it was just amazing to see two Black women doing what they love, and me being able to learn from her because she's been in the game longer than me in this consulting.
Oh gosh.
So, so welcome, Isadora. I'm so happy to have you. And before we start, I want to just share just a little bit about your background because
Sure.
as your biography says, you're adaptive, you're transparent, and you're reflective. And through my time of working with you, girl, you are all of those plus so much more. So just to give you guys a
Good to
little bit of background about Isadora, she's an experienced project developer, curriculum designer, and facilitator of systems design. As an independent consultant, her work seeks to drive social innovation through the lens of equity and inclusion. She's experienced in working with nonprofits and public entities, leaders, and change makers to create change at the individual, interpersonal, and institutional level. Isadora is passionate about and works that centers the narrative of marginalized individuals and communities. And welcome, Isadora. Welcome, welcome.
Thank you.
It's so exciting. You look
This is really
beautiful.
exciting. I know. I was nervous. I was like, okay, oh gosh,
Oh
what am I gonna
no.
wear? What am I gonna do?
No, don't be nervous. I love to make this as comfortable as possible. It's really just dialoguing, understanding one another, and you telling your story. Because I'm very selective about the people I have on this podcast because I want people who are transparent and going to tell us the nitty gritty, the stuff that we sometimes don't want to hear about entrepreneurship and
Yeah.
going after your purpose, but you are just somebody I really look up to as you've been doing this so much longer. And I'm even excited. I need my popcorn. Let me look for that popcorn too as we go. So we'll jump right into the interview. I guess for me,
Great.
I have questions for you that I feel like would be something that most of us will want to know. But like I said, flow with this, and really
Sounds
just
good.
tell your story. So I guess before we even begin, tell us a little bit, since we're a purpose focused podcast, I want to know what your definition of purpose is. What is your definition of purpose?
Yeah. Well, I just want to say thank you so much for inviting me, first and foremost.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't take this invitation lightly. I'm very honored to be here with you.
Okay.
Um, Yeah, purpose. This is a big question. um, I think that, when I think about my natural purpose, I think about the things that come very natural to me, which is, being a teacher, being a mentor, being a role model. Those are things that just come very easy to me, and I do them very unconsciously. And there are also things that I kind of shy away from a little bit too. It's interesting how, when you're purpose to be something, when God has purpose for you to be someone, and to do some things, how you shy away from that. And I don't want to get super biblical, but I think about like the thought of Moses and the burning bush, and him standing there and saying that I'm not like me, like, do you remember my past? Do you remember what I did and what I ran away from?
Yeah.
And you want me to be this person? I don't have these skills. I don't have the speech. I don't have, all these things. And God was like, I'm going to provide, for you. And you don't have to do it alone. I will bring people in your community to support you. And so, I find myself even though it's natural to me to be a mentor, to be a role model, to be a coach, to be a teacher, I found myself for many years, shying away from that identity that is like so true to who it is that I am. Yeah. I would also say that like one of my purposes on like a more, I don't know, institutional level, or maybe on the multiple levels, right? Institutional, interpersonal, and individual, is to be a change maker, and to help people see that change is possible.
Yes.
And that just because you were born into a certain situation, or your situation right now looks meek, or the system has been kind of created to work against you, doesn't mean that you can't make small changes within your lives and your life and the way that in which you do things to make it better overall for yourself and for those that look up to you and that you support as well. And so, just like as you spoke about the work that I'm, really invested in, I'm invested in systems change. And systems change is not just about the organization or the institution. It's also about the people that are holding up that institution, right? Like, our people forget that, like, yes, there's policies and procedures from an organizational level, but, we as individuals uphold those policies and those procedures. We are the doers of those things, right? And so if we can change our mindset around that, maybe we can change the system.
Yes. Oh, Isadora, you're saying so many good things. I want to just like do a shout. I just have to interject to just totally agree with you. And this is again why I'm so happy to have you on this platform, because you said several things that I just want to kind of chime in on. Just even example of Moses and running away. Most people don't realize that the thing that they run away that cause them misery or fear is usually their ministry and what they're called to do. So and we find sometimes that it's usually the thing that, we're a little self-conscious about, like, hey, am I equipped? Who will hear me? Who cares? Who wants to know what I have to say? But it's in those things that's usually, I found through my walk that it's where you have a little bit of doubt. You give God room to really kind of show you. So I think that's just such a great example as well. And then just the change piece, because most people do not like change. They want the same thing. They resist change, and that's usually what it takes to see organizations and ourselves as individuals grow to the next level. So I love that those are such great focuses for you, and that's the definition of purpose, because purpose is about changing, moving from the next level to the next level, and making sure that you're conscious about also just not getting comfortable. So I just had to chime in and say that. I know I read your bio, but you do multiple things. And I want you to just kind of give a little tease of, because I didn't mention that you're also an educator and a woman with many hats, and you do it all well. So can you share a little bit, just to add on to what I shared about your bio, what you all do on top of your consulting business?
Yeah. So I teach leadership at the University of Minnesota. I teach in the leadership minor program there. I've been teaching there for about 3 years. So it's an undergraduate program. So every semester I have, 24 to 26 students that are looking to me to educate them on leadership, which, essentially I see myself as a facilitator of meaningful conversations and less of a teacher. I have some answers, right? But that's my opinion, right? And that's based off of my story and my identity. But that course is really about like, who are you? Like what is your identity? Like, let's talk about that, right? Because like we're in school, we're taught to blend in and to assimilate. We're not taught to share about who it is that we are. So we teach about that. Like what is your identity? What are your values? What are your strengths? Like, what do you bring as a leader? And really taking a strengths-based approach to that. And then maybe what are your limitations? Not so that you can fix them, right? Because we always want to fix what we think that we're not good at, right? But for me, and I think what we teach in this course is really about like, how do you bring along other people to fill in the gaps for you, right? So if you're not very strong at being a strategic planner, maybe you should bring somebody on your team that has those skills, right? And that can fill in those gaps that you don't have. It doesn't mean that you can't do it. It just means that you might need a little help in this area. I know for me personally, like I'm a very futuristic, I'm very strategic. I think you can see that I'm very much logical in the way that I do things. And sometimes that takes away from the actual doing, and so I need a lot of people who are doers around me to kind of execute that vision, right? If you're, so anyways, I won't go on, on and on about that.
But, I love it. So good. So,
yeah.
To, just to comment on that, I think it's so great that you're also on top of just doing something for yourself and for your future generations through your business. You also are making sure that you are creating leaders. And I think that that's something that's really important to me. Like, no matter how far I am, see myself growing and creating success for myself, it's nothing like being able to replicate that in others. So the fact that you're able to facilitate and teach and do that at the U, I think that's just awesome, because you're helping to replicate other leaders. And that's where we're going to see change. And that's where we're going to make sure that our future generations are thinking and becoming people who are not just selfish, but selfless,
exactly.
Because pull others up. I love that. And just, you had mentioned something too about identity, which is so key, because you can, with the society we live in now, with social media and all these other things that influence us, every day you could wake up and see something, and then it shifts you. You're not sure who you should be, or what you should look like, or what the standard is for you. And knowing who you are and being grounded in that note, it keeps you on track and able to actually be successful. Because if you're waking up every day and changing who you are and what you're becoming because of not knowing who you are, it can cause so much stress and anxiety. And we see a lot of that in our culture and society today, especially in the Western world. So identity and purpose and all these things are just so important to me. And I just love that you're making sure to do that in the young folk. And the young folk, make sure to really lead them and guide them and challenge them and have those conversations. So that's amazing, Isadora. And now I want to transition to yourself, just thinking about all you've done and who you are. What would you say you found your purpose? And tell us what that process was like for you as you discovered and got to this place of creating your own.
Yeah. I think that I'm still in the process. Like, I think that, the process has many different stages. But gosh, I don't know. I'm an adaptive person. I'm an adaptive learner. And so I say that to say that, as I experience life, as I go through different things in my life, I change my perspective, right? And I learn and I reflect on what has happened. And I think some people, for me, I would say, everything is a learning opportunity. Everything that I've been through, whether it's good or bad, is a learning opportunity. And once you go through something in life that's really significant for you, whether it's a bad relationship or a toxic job, or you want, travels, or you met a person, whatever it is, you have to look at that as an experience and reflect on that experience, and just learn and adapt based off of what you've learned, and take that into your life going forward. And so, I would say that a lot of things shaped my journey. I think, definitely the people around me have shaped my journey in good ways and bad ways. The good and bad people, I should say, people who are, for me and maybe not so for me, shaped my journey. I would also say education shaped my journey. I know that getting my master's, going through that process really opened. There was a lot of aha moments, especially in that first year of schooling, where I started to realize and recognize my source, the root of why I did things, and kind of question it and challenge myself on multiple fronts. Because we were told to reflect, we were told to think about it, right? And it was the first time where I was like, wow, maybe I should really think about why it is I do certain things and how I can change. Is this something that I want to keep doing? Is this something that is holding me back, or is this something that is a barrier for me? So I think that, I would say the people around me, and my experiences in grad school, and just my environment in general, have really kind of pushed me into this next, this phase of entrepreneurship.
Oh, just awesome. And I want to talk about that now. Let's get into what people really, and all this has been just amazing, but I want to hear a little bit about that journey, how that happened, because as we've had our talks and talked about, just how entrepreneurship has affected us and how much of a blessing it's been. I always tell people my foundation is in God, and with Him, all things are possible. And I will tell you, this walk of entrepreneurship, you need to have a foundation.
You got to have a lot of faith.
You have to have faith. And on my podcast, I'm transparent. I'm like, look, I would look at my account and say, okay, I see about 50 cents. And, beginning of the journey in 2013, but I never let that stop me. You have to be forward thinking. You have to know, I'm going to make this happen because I'm partnering with my source, and I can do it. It's one of those things where you just have to wake up knowing and have that conviction. So I want to hear about this, turning your 9-to-5 into this now consulting firm, and how that journey happened, because I know you started off as an educator, and then you kind of went into the consulting. Tell us how you made that transition, and what were the challenges in that, because we get comfortable with that check every 2 weeks, or we get comfortable with, hey, even I'll tell you, even as an entrepreneur, I had to kind of unlearn the work world, in a sense of, okay, I do something, I get a praise, I get a check, it's changed, because I'll do something, I may not get a check, and I may not get a praise right away. It takes time, but I have to continue to do, and then it will come. So I had to kind of unlearn that pattern. And I think there's so many things we have to unlearn if we decide to go down this journey, and it's not for everybody.
For sure.
I just want to hear a little bit about that story, and hear how that all weave together to inspire those that are listening, who are on the edge of their seat and feel like, can I do this? What does it look like? And to know it's not a walk in the park, but it's possible,
Yeah, for sure. So, gosh, so I'll have to say that I have an entrepreneurial spirit.
Yes, that's it.
I have always wanted to be my own boss.
Yes.
I have always wanted to run my own business. And I remember, after undergrad, I remember sitting at my first real 9 to 5 job and thinking to myself, is this it? Like, I'm just going to sit at a desk for the rest of my life, like, for 9 to 5. And, like, when am I going to have time to travel? When am I going to have time to do the things that I want to do, start a family, all these things? Like, I'm going to have to like be here at this desk. So, I still remember that. I don't remember the specific day, but I still envision that when I think about the work that I'm doing right now. Is like, I was there and now I'm here. But I would say that, after grad school, so I've always had all these big ideas, right? And I've never actually, I started things here and there, and then they kind of fizzled, right? I have a lot of different, like you said before, I have a lot of different talents and skill set. I'm a very great creative person. I love to do photography. And I just have a lot of really creative ideas, right? And so I would always start these little projects, and then they would like fall off after like a month or two or whatever, right? But
look, I'm the queen sometimes at back.
Yeah.
That entrepreneurial spirit, everything you look at from a business perspective. So
exactly.
Like, yes, we're going to change the world. And
and then you realize a month down the line that like, wait a minute, maybe I'm not really passionate about this thing.
Yeah.
So I think, I go back to that purpose of like, being a teacher and being a mentor, and then also wanting to like change systems. That's something that has been at like the core. I remember being an undergrad and talking about it with some of my classmates about, changing systems, and at that time I didn't even know what I was talking about, and that's why I feel like it was like, it's so like God led, that I was talking about these things when I didn't even know what it was. But, actually, I got the opportunity in grad school to work full time in a small social innovation incubator within a school. So I worked at a school at the U. I won't say which one. I worked at a school within the U for 2.5 years doing social innovation work.
Wow.
And I was a project manager working on complex systems change. And, I was a part of the whole process, from like the idea of it, the conceptualizing it, to like actually fleshing out the strategies and the objectives and the outcomes of 3 different very unique, I would say like probes to try to change the system. And so that work was amazing. It was challenging. It allowed me to do things I had never done. I'd never been a project manager before. Wow. I had never, led a core team before. I had never created an agenda for a core team, or I had to create a leadership cohort. Training cohort. Never in my life I did that before. Wow. I did a learning collaborative with individuals from 21 different organizations.
Wow.
Stand up in front of people.
All of that together.
I had to stand up in front of, on a monthly basis, stand up in front of like 50 people and try to help them, with systems change and help them to kind of think about their programs in a different way and all these things, right? And also through that process, I was able to take on other projects as well with government entities. So I was able to work with the state of Minnesota. I was able to work with Ramsey County people. I was able to work with Hennepin County. I was able to work with the city of Minneapolis and the city of St. Paul, along with a number of nonprofits. And I would also say that I worked in an environment. So I'll say this: I worked with individuals that were amazing. It was mostly, actually, it was all women pretty much.
Wow.
And very different walks of life, backgrounds and experience, kind of working in different niches of work. But I had the opportunity at that job to work with just amazing women with amazing skill sets and learn from them, really learn from them. And we supported one another as we did work that was really challenging at times, trying to get people to change
Yeah.
behaviors, change policies and procedures that just don't work, and to question those policies, was hard work, but I worked in this with these amazing group of women. The issue was that I worked in an environment that was toxic. And toxic from a leadership perspective. And also from an institutional kind of perspective. And when you're doing work that's challenging like that, where you're trying to really move systems and push systems and probe systems, you need to work in an environment that is supportive and conducive for the change that you're trying to create. And that was not the case for me. So although I loved my work, every day I was challenged. I felt very fulfilled by my work. I got to work with so many different people. And I got to work with these amazing group of women that I still call my friends and colleagues today. The environment was very toxic. And then life happened, and I had this big, something big just kind of rattled my life. And it made me it just really put things into perspective for me. It made me think about how precious life is and how short life is, and that I should deserve to be happy today, and I shouldn't wait, for a day that may never come to do all the things that I was already purposed to do. I know that I'm purposed to do, right? Yeah. And so, after I went through that experience, I actually, I remember it was May 2018. I went to my job that day and I was just fed up. I had had enough with the leadership. I had had enough with the environment. I cleared my desk. Okay.
Wow.
I cleared my desk. I left my I brought, that day I was like, I don't know if it might be my last day today. I brought in donuts for my colleagues. Called everybody. I was like, hey, everybody, I brought donuts, I cleared my desk.
Wow.
And I said, I don't know if today's going to be my last day, but I'm not staying in this place.
Wow. Wow.
And I started making my plans to leave.
That's awesome.
And it took me until December. So I planned, I didn't want to be, I didn't want the environment to get the best of me, and I didn't want that leader, to steal my joy. I still had to pay a bill. I had mortgage to pay. I had people depending on me, and so I was just very deliberate about my process, and I decided that I was going to quit. And I know that there's privilege in what I was able to do. I was able to quit, and I was able to actually take off for 3.5 months and travel.
Wow.
And so I planned that out. I planned out, okay, how was I going to take care of my home? How was I going to do all these things? Right. And just slowly, started backing away from this job.
Yeah. You said, plan. I love that you said you planned.
I planned it. I planned out, okay, how was I going to pay these things? How was I going to take care of my house? How was I going to, insurance and all these things, right, that you have to think about. I really was like, I'm not going to let the situation get the best of me. I'm going to continue to do my work.
Yeah.
I'm going to continue to, because I still was getting a lot of really good experience on the job, So I planned it out, and in December 2018, I left at the end of December.
Wow.
And I think it came to a shock for some people, because I stopped talking about the fact that I was leaving. So I had this little group of women who we would all talk about leaving, right?
Yeah.
And I was the very first person to be like, no, I'm leaving, and I'm leaving, and then I stopped talking about it. And so when I left, they were kind of like, it was like the most, I remember going to the happy hour afterwards, and they were just kind of like, you're really leaving? And I'm like, yeah, I'm leaving, And so I left, and I traveled. I went to Asia, I went to Africa, I went to part of, Europe, and I just spent that time being in the moment. And meeting new people, and just exploring a lot on my own. and processing, because I had went through something that was, very traumatic and tragic for me, and needed that time to just kind of, reflect, and to just be in the moment, and to not have any other like external pressures, any other external things that were getting in the way of me just processing and being and experiencing. And so I spent the next two and 3 months, 3.5 months doing that. And then I returned here to Minneapolis, and, just kind of downsized my life, got rid of my house or started the process for that.
Yeah.
And, was still thinking about what was I going to do next. Right.
Yeah.
And, started meeting back up with a lot of the women that I had worked with and who had become, friends to me. And, everyone kept telling me, like I was actually, one of my friends was like, well, there's this woman who needs some help with this stuff. And I was like, okay, I can help her with that, And so I went to another friend and I was like, oh, do you want to come with me on this project? She was like, that sounds like something you can do on your own. And I was like, you think so? And she's like, yeah, you could just, do your own thing. And I'm like, really? And because at that time, by the time that I had came back, one of my colleagues had left herself from that same toxic environment. So she had started her own thing. And, I was telling her about, I don't know what I want to do next. And she was like, well, you're a great project manager. Like, just do that by yourself. And I'm like, you think I can do that? Like, really?
Yeah.
So anyway, so I just started doing the work. I had this small nonprofit outside of DC that took a chance on me, and started doing some evaluation work for her over the summer. Started looking at jobs and stuff here and there, and
always that really patient to say, okay, I'm not capable.
Yeah. So I went. It was interesting because I was like reluctantly applying for stuff and just was like, oh God. And I actually got an interview for this job. And I remember going to the interview and sitting in the parking lot like, why am I here?
Yeah.
Like, why am I here? So anyways, I didn't end up getting that job. And I remember I was talking to my sister, and this is like, there's, like in your journey, there's a few pivotal moments, right? And I remember I was sitting outside my house, and I was talking to my sister. She was like, oh, did you hear back from that job? And I was like, no, I didn't, yeah, I heard back from them actually today. And, I didn't get it, which is fine because I'm okay with that. And I kind of was already reluctant about, pursuing that job and stuff. And, I don't know, like I'm working for this woman, and this nonprofit, and, I like the work and stuff like that. And I like, kind of being able to dictate my own time, and, maybe I could do this on my own. I don't know, I'm sitting there, talking to her, and she just turned to me and she was like, Izzy, this is what my family calls me, Izzy. She's like, Izzy, you are an entrepreneur. You have an entrepreneurial spirit. You get that from our father. My dad was somebody who always, had all these ideas, right? And he never could fully execute them, but he always had all these ideas. And she was like, you get that from my dad. You are meant to be an entrepreneur. You are meant to do your own thing.
Yeah.
And I was like, but what if I started doing the buts like Moses. I was like, but what if I don't get contracts? And what if I can't find, can't find the work? And what if, and I'm doing all these what if, and she was like, what if you have more work than you can handle?
Wow.
What if you have to turn away work?
Yeah.
What if you're so successful that you don't ever have to get a job again?
Yes.
And that was like light bulb went off for me. Like, I was like, well, what if,
Yeah.
And she doesn't even realize, the impact. And I told her about this actually the other day. I reminded her of it. And she told me that she had gotten from some book, which I don't want to even quote right now because I can't remember what book it was. But yeah, I mean, it was so impactful for me. She just, in that little moment, she shifted my mindset Like I had already knew that I could do these things, but she just like gave me so much courage. And she actually even like sat there and was like even from a financial standpoint, she was like, Izzy, how much money you got in your savings? And I told her, and she was like, girl, you good. You know, like, just do it, you know?
Yeah. The worst that can happen is you go and you get back into a job, and those are still learnings, you know?
No, they're still learning. And she was like, financially, this is like the perfect time for you to be able to step out on faith. Step out, you know, and you know, I'll say this term that we use in the leadership minor program is there's no change without discomfort. There's no change in the comfort zone, right? You can't really change if you're being comfortable. So you really have to step out on faith. And, you know, I can say that like at that moment, that's when things shifted for me, but I can't always say that it's always been pleasant, right? You know, I've had my times where I feel down. I just want to go look for a job, and I'm like, oh, this is just hard, you know.
I get it.
You know, as an entrepreneur, but like that was the moment where things just started to shift. Wow. And I started to put my energy into this business, you know, and so in that fall, which was actually just last fall, I actually solidified my business. LLC,
I keep these in the office. I had an event, and I just love it. I love cheering people on and getting so excited with them. So I'm excited.
So I got my LLC. I did my website. I, you know, got my business cards, all these things. And then I started to think about, okay, what kind of training do I need to get? What kind of how can I network and things like that? And honestly, like things kind of fell very naturally after that. I had actually, you know, in that same summer, which was summer 2019, not 19, yes, because you just had 2020, summer 2019. I had put in a big proposal with a couple of my former colleagues there's two other colleagues that had left in addition to the one that had left before. So four of us totally left, and we all started our own, you know, businesses. And so they became my network. They became my colleagues in a sense. And so a couple of us put in this big proposal, which we didn't end up getting, but that experience really helped me to kind of shape the perspective of work that I wanted to do, right? The angle or like the niche that I was going to focus on. And so I really was like, okay, how can I, you know, I want to do project management, but I want to do project management within the public sector. What does that look like? What kind of degree or what kind of certificate programs will help to like boost me? What kind of, you know, I started thinking along those lines. And so I went and got the formal project management certificate at the U. I went through that process in the fall. Still continued to teach and all those things. And then just really dug into my network. I really started to meet regularly with these women just to, you know, just to kind of run things by them, you know, and actually I started getting different RFPs started coming down through that process. We started getting notified of different things, and we, you know, a couple of us would go in on it. But I just spent, you know, probably the latter part of, you know, 2019 into early 2020, you know, putting in writing a lot of proposals, you know, and really just, again, narrowing my niche as I was doing these proposals. And, you know, I would say that, you know, some of the proposals, okay, they didn't come through, but that's fine. You know, everything is a learning experience. And like through every proposal, I was able to be like, oh, you know, I can do this differently. I can do this way, or this is how I want to focus. So I learned from those opportunities. In the early part of 2020, I actually landed my first kind of bigger solo project with an organization. this organization that I hadn't been affiliated with. And then it came through my network. My network, they were like, you should, this seems like something that would be good for you to do. And so I did a series of trainings for a nonprofit. I also got some repeat work. So the woman that I had been working with, a small nonprofit out of DC, she had asked me to kind of continue some work for her. And so I worked on that early 2020.
This is so awesome. Let me tell you, I mean, I've been taking notes because I don't want to forget one thing. I mean, your journey is so inspiring, and it makes me feel like take a deep breath because you feel like you're alone. Like, is this what I have to go through? Is this like how it go? And it's like, no, as entrepreneur and with, like you said, with that entrepreneurial spirit, we all somewhat have a similar journey that's connected. And I'm just so I'm so blessed by this time of just hearing. There's several things you mentioned that I just want to touch on. One of the things you said is you were introduced to your purpose early, but you didn't even realize it. And that's what I tell people all the time. Let's go back and see what you've done through your life. What has really brought you fulfillment? Where have you seen yourself start and maybe didn't continue? We don't realize that God aligns us to, he's shaping everything. And we sometimes get a little soft touch to what we're called to do. But at that time, we don't realize it. And many of us, because we don't follow through, or we say, oh no, we're just not good enough, or no, I'm too afraid. We never reach the mark. There's a quote that says so, you want to die empty. And so many of us die full of ideas and businesses. And we're like, I just want to be successful, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, you had that $1 million idea. You just took it with you, because you decided to stop at that point where you had the breakthrough. When you got that introduction, you never continued to pursue that thing, I love that you mentioned that. And then I really also, love that you took on challenges, because Isadora, that similarly, a challenge is what led me to understand part of what my business is today. I was given a challenge just like you were, and you took it with confidence. And even in that environment that was somewhat toxic, you said, I'm still going to get what I need to be able to prosper and not allow all this other stuff to keep me from that. So in our careers now, and even in our 9-to-5, I am so for 9-to-5. I think it's awesome to get that career, because I always challenge those that I coach, learn on somebody else's dollar,
Yes.
Somebody else's dollar, gain the perspective on somebody else's dollar, but do it in excellence, because no matter, and a key thing you mentioned is, and I have an episode coming up on this, is your network is your net worth. You make sure that although you were in that job, although the environment was toxic, you continue to mention how your network helped you, and how now, because you worked in excellence, you didn't allow the environment to impact you. You made sure you did your best work. You continue to press forward. You built relationships. You weren't just there pushing papers and leaving. You built relationships. Look at how you were able to come back, partner, apply for opportunities with those women who now saw you as a trailblazer, who started that journey to your business. I feel these are key things that I want my listeners to understand. You have to build relationships. You have to make sure that you're working. So if I say, hey, Isadora, I want to apply for this opportunity, will you, stand in the gap with me? Would Isadora think I've done a good enough job to do that? You can't, just half do things and then expect that people are gonna, want to say, hey, I want to support you. And I just think I love that you mentioned some of those things. And you also said you did something you never done before. The fact that you took on those opportunities, you educated yourself. You went now after you did what you never done before. You said, okay, how can I shape this into my own? You got training. You said, how can I'm creating a competitive edge for myself. And that's the thing too. So many people think, oh, because I know somebody or my family told me I'm good at this. So no, you have competitors out there. Make sure you get a competitive edge, and you are actually really assessing what it is I need to progress in this industry. I know so many people who are talented, but, there's things that they fall short at, and they're trying to be perfect in everything, which I also love that you mentioned, like, know your weaknesses and know where you can leverage others. Like, I'm like yourself, I'm a big thinker. Like, I'm like, okay, I take an idea and run with it, but I know I need others around me to help me shape that, to take the steps to walk it out, know where your strengths are and leverage others. Because if we go into this attitude of, oh, I'm the best at everything, or nope, I got this, or I don't need help, or I gotta show that I know it all and be arrogant about it, you're only gonna get so far because
yes, you need people to support you in your entrepreneurship.
Yes.
Like, I know it seems like a very individual thing, but it's not. You need a community of people to support you in multiple ways, right? Like, I have my family, right, that are my cheerleaders, right? They're my champions always, right? They're always going to encourage me. They're always there. I'm fortunate, right? And I'm privileged to have family that really love me and that support me on a very emotional level, right? And then I have people who who have a lot of faith in me, and see me as a viable professional, right? And are able to vouch for me on a professional level, right? And support me in that way, And so I think as you're thinking about entrepreneurship, you really have to think about your community that are going to support you to do this work, because you cannot do it alone. You need people who are going to support you in that. And I would say that also, to the point that you brought up about the environment that I had worked in previously, like, I was very intentional when I went into that environment that I wanted to learn. I wanted to build new skills. I wanted to really just take in, and there's a lot of benefits to working for a very large university. So I took in every little training, every little thing that I could do. Like, I took that all in, and I really capitalized on that environment, because I feel like if I had not worked at that job, I wouldn't be doing the work that I'm doing right now, because it really helped me to find my niche, to find like what I'm really good at. It really allowed me to really reflect, be intentional about the work that I saw myself doing and how I wanted to do this work. Just saying you want to create change, like, that's great, but like, how are you going to create change? Like, by which niche? Are you going to be a teacher? Are you going to be a thought leader? Are you going to write books? Are you going to project manage? Like, what is it that you're going to do? And that job really helped me to shape what it is that I'm doing now. And I'll also say that I was very intentional about how I built relationships in that environment too.
Yeah.
So I'm an introvert by nature. I think people think I'm extroverted, but I'm not at all. I really enjoy spending time alone and just reflecting, being with myself. But I was very intentional about building relationships with people. And so, after the weekend, I would go over to one of my colleagues and I'd be like, hey girl, what'd you do over the weekend? Talk to them and listen to them. Oh, that's great. Okay. Well, oh, how was that date you went on? Get personal a little bit with them, right? And just really show them. Genuinely, very genuinely, very genuine. Not, and I was always like, I don't want to know about, I'm a very private person. And so it was hard for me, but like, I was very genuine about how I built relationships with everyone. And honestly, like, if it wasn't for me taking that approach, like, all of the contracts that I have, even the one that we're working on right now together, like, that came from my network. I wouldn't even know about this experience if it wasn't for me building relationships with the women that I had built with at that previous job. And, so I have to say that, yes, take everything that you can from whatever 9 to 5 that you have, really see it as an incubator for what it is that you want to do in the future. Learn, capitalize on the resources. And I say resources on the, like on a training front, but also like the resources of the people that are there. People are resources too. And so build relationships, build meaningful relationships with the people that you're working with, because you just never know when they're going to come through for you later on in life. And so, I was just very intentional about that. And that is every bit of why I'm able to be, what I would say semi-successful in my in my entrepreneurial, life, is because I spent that time building relationships, building myself, and really reflecting on what it is that I wanted to do when I had the opportunity to do that in that space.
Yes. Oh, Isadora, I just want to go on forever, but I know we're there's so much more. So that means I have to bring you back. But
Yeah.
I have these list of questions, guys, for her, and I'm like, okay, so we're bringing her back for a part 2. We need to get through all of this, but one of the things I wanted to ask you as well, and I just had to say I love about niche, because as an entrepreneur, I'm newer now because I just launched as a consultant in June of this year. So as I'm doing it, I'm learning, okay, I thought I wanted to go in this angle, but I'm narrowing it down. So it's so true. Like you start to narrow down as you do projects. Even with this project we're working on now, I'm like, oh, this is an aspect that fits in this part of my business, but I think I want to go in this direction now and narrow. It really helps you. So using all experiences really, and having a niche is key. You cannot be all over the place. So you're so right about that. But one of the last questions I want to ask you is, as you know, we are having now a Black woman vice president. Office.
Yes.
And I heard you say several times, like you had a group of women and it was all women. And as a Black woman, and we're first generations, and she is too. My parents, of course, are Liberian Nigerian. Your parents are Liberian. Tell me a little bit about how that has played a part in business. Have you seen opportunities for yourself open up, or has it been tough? Or just tell us, like, how is seeing Kamala reach this that affect you? I know for me, just helping to start the dialogue is made me know that nothing is impossible. Like I had that drive, but seeing this actually, I feel like Black women, we have done so much, and we've always are in the background. We're the backbone of so many things, and we never get that place of recognition. And seeing that, it made me know that finally, it's our time, it's our season, and God is saying, yes, I'm making room where other people didn't. So I just want to hear a little bit of your perspective as we close, and then if you can just chime in a little bit as well on advice you'll give those who are on this journey at a 9-to-5, looking to transition, or taking what and building into their purpose.
Yeah. Well, I just think, having Kamala, gosh, it's just such a symbol of, anything is possible, right? And like, you really have to, like, when I think about something that I want, you have to set that intention. You have to, I'm a woman of faith, so I pray over that intention. Yeah. And then I manifest that intention in my actions, right? Like I act as though I already have that thing that I asked for, right?
Work. You got to believe in and think it.
Yes, and so whether it's a material thing that you want, or something that you want to learn, whatever it is, like you put that intention out there, you ask, God to direct you on that intention, and then you manifest it in your action. And so I think that's what Kamala did, right? Like she, and then you have to also say that, maybe I wasn't meant to do this thing right now. Like she was trying to be the president, and that it wasn't her time yet. Yeah. But she was humble enough to say, yeah, it wasn't my time for this, but maybe it's my time for something else. I could take a lesser, role, learn through this experience, and then next time do that bigger thing. That's what she did. And so again, seeing, your, I don't know, your downfalls or missed opportunities, or seeing everything as a learning experience, right? Just because you weren't offered that position, or you weren't offered this, that consultancy, doesn't mean that you didn't learn something, that you can't learn something that you can apply later on down the road, right? And just knowing that what is for you is for you.
Yes. Yeah.
And so maybe you just need to spend some time kind of in that incubation phase before you actually are able to do this full-fledged thing. So yeah, I think, that's my advice for people, is to really, to not give up. It's challenging. I have moments, I think there's some days where I'm like, I can do this. This is great. Everything is great. Life is great. And then the next week I'm like, oh, I should just go on Indeed right now and just, look for jobs, because this is,
Yeah.
entrepreneurship has its ebbs and flows, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes you feel really good, and sometimes you don't feel very, productive, or you don't feel very useful, or whatever. And so just knowing and being prepared for those times, and having some, having some systems, or some, not, I don't want to call it coping, but ways in which that you can kind of, some people, right? Some champions that you can call to be able to lift you up, and to encourage you, and to push you to go forward in those times when you're low. I remember, there's a time after I had, after I talked to my sister initially, I remember coming back to her, and I was having a low time. And she was like, and I was telling her, I think I'm just going to get a job, or maybe I should just whatever. And she was like, what? You going to she literally looked at me. She was like, that is not an option.
Yeah.
She said that to me. She was like, that is no longer an option.
Wow.
You have already, this is it.
Yeah.
Don't go back.
Yeah.
Don't go back. Why are you even considering that? And literally, she said that to me. And I was like, okay. I won't do that anymore,
Yeah. Awesome.
So yeah, you need to have people like that core group of people who are going to redirect you when you're in those moments of like, can I really do this, right? You need to spend that time, thinking and processing. And, just because you get you get denied from one opportunity, or, rejected from one opportunity, doesn't mean that there's not another opportunity, even better opportunity coming your way. So just wait and be patient. I mean, it took me a full year to start getting the contracts that I really wanted to get. I was just getting, smaller contracts here and there, still very meaningful work. And I took it, right? I took it. And then it took me a whole year to finally get a really great contract. And it was interesting because, before I got this contract that we're working on, I had gotten an opportunity. I had applied for another really big contract and thought this was going to be it, was kind of hesitant about the contract and stuff. But it was going to be a very, lucrative one, interviewed for it and everything. And then it ended up falling through the cracks. And that happened, I think, in July. And then I was offered this consultancy, which is even better.
Yeah, we get to work with, we work with amazing people. I really love it.
Way better, way more. Like, I was very hesitant about that one because I was like, I don't know, this is not really in my wheelhouse of like the sector, and the subject matter was not really, but I can do it, but it's not really like something that I'm passionate about. Just for God to bless me, in a month and a half with a position, I think that was destined for me. It was uniquely, my mom said it was uniquely fitted for me. Having, and it's interesting, I think I told you the story, I had worked for this organization, 6 or 7 years back. And now coming full circle after going to grad school, getting all this experience, and now being able to come in as a consultant and really, do the systems change work. It's just a blessing. All of it has just been a blessing. And so even though I had a disappointment, I was able to pick myself back up, reapply for things, and get another even better role. And so I think that's just my advice to people, get your network together, get your champions together, and keep going. You're going to have times where you're not feeling the best, right? But that's okay. That's normal, right? That is normal in entrepreneurship, but you have to keep going. You can't give up.
I love this, Isadora. Oh, goodness, amazing. Several just closing remarks and things I want you to share. So awesome and such good advice. Have your circle, because as a push strategist, I'm pushing people all day, but we have to be refilled. And if it wasn't for sisters, let me tell you, sisters, thank God. My sisters are just, your sister blessed me just hearing what she did for you. And my sisters, I may have my 4 or 5 people like my post, but my sister, she's going to reshare that. She's like, check out the push strategist. My sister, it's something about having, that circle. I'm so blessed for my sisters as well. And I'm so happy to have that. And like you said, it's a gift. Not everybody has that, but finding who your sisters are. Your sisters doesn't always have to be blood, but who are for you, who really supports you, who's that person who's always like, no, you can do it. Like you said, no, it's not an option. You're going to keep going. And as somebody new in business, that just encouraged me to know it takes time, but just keep hitting that glass ceiling. Eventually it's going to shatter. So thank you for all the wisdom and nuggets you provided. And gosh, your story just introvert my foot. Okay, you like nervous about this girl. It was amazing, and you're somebody who I realized the importance of environment. So in October for Women's Small Business Month, I had an event called a pep rally, and I literally used my little pom poms and the gift that I have of just encouraging, and had a bunch of women where we just encourage to push one another. And the value and the feedback I got of having a circle gave me the push to do this on a quarterly basis. So I would love to invite you back to be part of that. There was events in 2021, but I want to just share with our listeners, where can people find you? Maybe they need some adaptive, reflective, transparent support system change. Tell us where we can find you, your website or just your social media. Where can we find you if we want more information about hiring you or just partnering with you for services?
Yeah, so I put on my in my name here, I'm Mod LLC, so it's just www.modllc.com. And so you can find me there. I'm in the middle of kind of rebranding myself as I've, narrowed my niche. And so you'll see a lot of great things come 2021 on my website. And so, they can find me at Mod LLC. On a personal note, like I said, I love travel, and I love exploring, and I have a kind of a travel Instagram, and a couple pictures here and there of places I've been to, and that is at Girl Set Apart.
Oh, I love that.
At Girl Set Apart, and that's where you can find me on Instagram. So.
Awesome. I'll make sure too, as well, for the listeners, I'll put all this information in the episode notes and on YouTube, since we will be post this on there. And thank you, Isadora, for helping to push us to our purpose, pushing the push strategist towards more. And all of us, the goal, like I said, Push Talks is about pushing people towards their purpose in business, career, and beyond. And I'm excited. You can find out more, check out more episodes from us on Apple Podcasts. Our podcast is called Push Talks, as well as check us out on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram at Push Strategist is our hashtag or name, I guess you can say. So thank you so much, Isadora.
Thank you.
Continue to go after it, guys. In that 9 to 5, like Isadora shared, get all the value and get your circle of people who will encourage you. And I'm here as your push strategist as well to do that. So you can find out more information by going to pushstrategist.com. Thank you, Isadora.
Thank you so much. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.